Hey, we're going to open up the Water Sewer Commissioners meeting. It's Friday, October 13th, and it's 11:15. Present is Bob Josie, Keith Waniaz, Bob Sullivan, and
Pete DeCaro.
Pete DeCaro. All right, you want to discuss the water on Gilboa Street, right?
Yeah, this is to discuss the water and waste from the new venture that's going on down at 120 Gilboa Street.
So the document that I shared was prepared by our engineering company, Fuss and O'Neill. And just kind of take it from the top down. So we are looking to put in a fertigation system. And we, as part of that system, are going to put a reverse osmosis system in to capture our condensate that comes out of the rooms, and to also filter the water that's coming into the building. So we will take the water that's coming in. Our intention is to take the water that's coming in, use the reverse osmosis system to filter it. We'll then put that through a fertigation system where we'll use organic nutrients and pesticides to treat the plants, and we will drain that the nutrients to waste, what's left, which will be a very small amount, and then we will recirculate the condensate that comes out of the rooms in terms of dehumidification back into the RO and reuse it. So the breakdown here just shows that we're going to have about 2,300 gallons per day coming in, and then that condensate that comes out of the room is 3,500 gallons. We're going to capture that, put it back into the holding tank with the water that's coming in. Then we have our domestic water demand and the cooling tower that we're using for the chillers. We're bringing in 3 gas-powered chillers that will have cooling towers to it. We will be using that water that'll all be going to evaporate daily. So our estimated daily usage is at that 18,000 threshold. Most of the 16,000 gallons, it's just going to evaporation. And then you have your monthly and annual usage. And then down below in our sewer, you see we have about 800 gallons per day that are being rejected out of the RO system. So that's going to be all the water that's coming in, everything that you're putting in that we're not going to use, it's going to be going out. We'll have the fertigation waste, so that will be the remaining nutrients that are not being used. So what will happen is, as that fertigation system feeds the plants, we'll have some that will drain to the bench. The bench will go into a sump pump, and from there it'll be filtered out of the building, and we expect that to be that waste will be at the 500. And then we have our domestic and the cooling tower. For the most part, again, everything's is evaporating, but there is a little bit of waste that we determined. So we have our average daily discharge at being around 4,000.
All right.
So that's under the current design that we have.
All right, so I guess I'll just jump into some of the things that I saw. So I don't see any problem with 3,700 or 4,000 gallons a discharge. We have plenty of capacity at the treatment plant. I'm not, like I said, I know you had sent me some documents on
Nutrients and stuff.
some nutrients and stuff that they did testing. It looked to me like that was all on the plants themselves and not the discharge water.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still don't know what the concentrations will be coming down here.
Yep.
At this point, I don't think with that volume, I don't see any issue with us treating what you're sending anyway, just because of the dilution and the small amount that you'll be sending. But depending on the concentrations and our permit is up for renewal, and they've been killing people on phosphorus limits, aluminum limits. I noticed there was no aluminum stuff that I have to worry about with you, but the phosphorus would be my biggest concern.
Okay.
Mostly. But at this point, I don't see it being an issue. But like I said, we haven't seen a draft permit yet, or what they're going to hit us with. So I just wanted to make you aware that we can take the waste. We should be able to handle it, no problem. But if our permit comes out and it forces us to put in a pre-treatment program or anything, I would say that would probably, you'd be key to target for a pre-treatment on the nutrients.
Yep.
So just want to make you aware of that now.
Yep.
Before we get down the road, and I don't want to hit you with any big surprises or anything.
So, just so I'm clear on that, so the options could potentially be a pre-treatment of the waste, or we would have to find another way of capturing the waste or processing it, correct?
Essentially, yes. And so pre-treatment would just basically be what you said.
Yeah.
Just a different way to capture or basically treat it before it comes down to us.
Okay.
So it's just
Got
a
it.
matter of removing some of that nutrient.
Yeah.
We would basically just be looking at getting it to a certain level that we could still handle without it getting blown through or anything.
Okay. It's a little tough for us to give you, obviously without using the water and to give you the accurate, I mean, these studies help, but part of the regs will be, we will test the water with the state. We have to use a separate entity completely. So they'll test it, number one, for all of the things that we'll look for cultivation, but then number two, they're gonna test it for metals and everything else that's in the water, right? And that'll be a state testing, and the DPH will require us to submit those results to them. And then once we are up and running and we have that waste, we'll test it and get those results to you, but then we'll also submit those results to the DPH so that they can see them as well. And I think that's part of the conversation that they're going to want to have with us when we get further down the road. They've shared the same thing as part of the concern is that, obviously they don't know just yet what we're definitely going to do,
Right,
but
that's-
when we do know it and it's in, they're going to want to have some input into as well
Yep.
what those results are. So we understand the pretreatment might be a part of this.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure you did understand that and knew it ahead of time. I don't want you getting hit with any big surprises down the
Thank
road. And the only other concern I have, and I'm sure you're aware of it or it's been brought up before, is the pipe coming down to you. I mean, from your parking lot down is all 12-inch newer main, no issues there, but it's the section from this intersection down to the beginning of your parking lot.
It's all six.
It's a bottleneck. So
Okay.
originally in all our maps and everything, it was said that it was an 8-inch. We had a breakdown there a couple years ago. We dug it up. We had all the stuff to repair an 8-inch, and it was a 6-inch. So we redid everything, and so we know it's a bottleneck there.
Okay.
And I know there's been a few times that you guys have opened up a hydrant thinking it was one on your system, and it was one of ours, and it just kind of stirs everything up. I'm sure you've seen it in your water as well. So.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. And I mean, I know we had a conversation when I came down and met with you. I don't see it being a problem for us to supply the water. It's just a matter of, when we had the conversation, you had said it's going to be a slow, steady
Yep.
stream, which I don't see it being an issue. But if it turns into, all right, we got this tank we got to fill up and we're opening a 3-inch valve,
We're in trouble. Yeah.
you're,
right.
Yeah.
you're going to have a problem.
So the system that we're running, especially on the cooling tower, so the chillers will be, we'll be capturing, we'll be chilling the water from the 3 chillers that we're using. They're going to go through the cooling tower. That is going to run throughout the day. So the way our facility is going to run is we have 12 rooms that are going to be treated. We have 12 flower rooms, and they run on 12-hour cycles. So 6 are going to go on, and 6 are going to go off at the same time, right? So, 12 on, 12 off. That's how the rooms are going to work. So that's going to be pretty continuous throughout the day. And then we have 2 other rooms that are going to run on an 18 and a 6. So, again, throughout the day we're producing cooling. We're running the
All day
tower, so
long.
it's going to be continuous. There should not be ever a time where there's going to be a major spike of water demand. If there is, there's a major problem on my end.
Yeah.
Because everything is, even the feeding cycles are they're slow. It's not you're talking in any given room, hundreds of plants that are being fed. So it's a slow drip irrigation system.
Yep.
So there should never be a time where we're going to use that much water that quickly.
I mean, I know that we had that conversation, and I assumed that was the way. I just, again, want to
Absolutely.
make you aware that there is a bottleneck here. We're aware of it. I want to make you aware of it. I've tried for, 8 years to get it approved through Capital Committee to replace that line, and we're 8 years later, I still haven't got it. So I don't have the money in the budget right now to do it. So if this turned into a problem and it was messing up your process, I know you got an RO system, and if you get that quality of water coming in, it's going to blind your RO system in seconds.
Gotcha.
Just so you're aware.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, an
That's
RO is
scary to think. Yeah.
an RO system is very finicky. It takes a lot of backwash water to clean off your filters, and so
Okay.
if you plug it up fast, it's going to take a lot more to backwash it. I mean, the quality of water is good in town.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have any issues, but like I said, it's just that one section that concerns me.
Yeah.
You know, our intent is to do it at some point. I just don't know if it'll be on your timetable. This is all gonna come down to funding for me. I gotta go to town meeting and get
Sure.
approval to get it done. If I can't get it done, and that's a bottleneck for your process or whatever, I just want you aware of that as well.
We talked a little bit too about that flow rate, I think, in the last meeting, and I think we talked about, it was relatively slow. It was equivalent of what you put through a hose. I'll get that rate to you,
Oh, okay.
again, but it was, I mean, that was the,
Oh, yeah, I mean, looking at the
the
numbers you
flow.
were gonna use, I think I figured 13 or 18 gallons a minute.
yeah, right, that's, yeah, I thought we were in that
Somewhere around
15,
there, yeah, so.
15, yeah, okay.
But like I said, that's, you know, based on a continuous
Mm-hmm,
slow draw of that. If it's, you shut that, you know, if you're only pulling half the day, now you just doubled that number. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you're trying to pull that water in quick batches, it's gonna be a lot different than just a slow, steady pace.
right,
And I mean, there's things that we'll do to try to help out and avoid that. We'll try to get some flushing going on to scour that line out a little so it avoids that a little more, but
I think we'll have some seasonality to it too, right? So then the demand may be a little bit less in the, the cooler temperatures.
right, yeah. So, but I mean, I just wanted to get it all out there. Those are my only areas of concern at this point. Otherwise, I don't see much issue with the numbers, depending on what's coming out as waste. I mean, it's just something I think we're gonna have to deal with when it happens.
Okay.
You know, because we don't know what you're gonna generate. I mean, in my opinion, if you're discharging a lot of nitrogen or phosphorus, you're wasting chemical.
Yep.
So it's coming out of your pocket to begin with.
Right.
So I would
right.
assume that you're gonna try to be as efficient as you can on your dosing of your chemicals. The pesticides, what are, you know?
So we have two. They're completely organic, and I
Okay.
brought the data sheets on those so you could see them.
Alright.
So these are the two, and they fill into the tanks, run through the fertigation system just like the nutrients. And then this is the certificate of analysis, and I sent you this before.
I saw those, yeah.
Did you see that? So they had a white paper as well, and all of the test results on the nutrients that we're using were all done locally. So these aren't like Colorado or California. These are Massachusetts tested nutrients that went through, and for the most part, all of the concerns were non-detectable. They
Yeah,
were,
it was that.
they were
Everything on there was very low numbers, if anything.
Yeah.
Um,
So low detectable levels. So, but I brought both anyway. But it doesn't. Again, that doesn't change the fact that we will have to test this no matter what once we're done, and that's
The state's going to insist on this, right?
yeah. We have to. We will be testing our water in or water out. We'll be testing our medium. We'll be testing everything from third party. The only testing that we'll be doing internally will be in terms of potency and quality and process. So more process analytical testing. The rest of it's all going to be sent out by state-run entities. We'll probably use MCR. Or ProVerdi over in Milford, MCR's over in Southborough, so we'll use either of them. The test actually that's in this case study was tested by MCR over in Southborough, so they're familiar with the nutrients and everything else that we're using, so there's nothing here that's really unusual. These are just kind of the run-of-the-mill type of nutrients, assuming you're going heavy on the organic side.
Has the DPE gotten involved with anything with the water out?
So I know in some every cultivation site, to my understanding, has had to test it with their if they're draining it down to the sewer,
Yeah.
and everyone, depending upon how they've done it, they've had different results. What I understand is that if they're taking water that has already been high in certain metals and they introduce nutrients or pesticides that also have a higher degree of that concentrate in it, then their waste has been less than favorable, and they have been forced to pre-treat it. So I understand that has happened. With us, what we're trying to do through the RO system is, and again through the choices that we've made in the nutrients, as you guys know, there's a million of these, right? So all these are being used for nutrients for everything from tomatoes and avocados, hops. It's treating every plant. So none of this is specific to cannabis. This is all just general agriculture, type of nutrients. But again, for those that have taken those chances, yeah, they've been forced to pre-treat. For us, we have the RO system coming in, so we're going to filter it. We're going to use all the organic stuff coming out. All of this is going to be managed through a fertigation system. So there is next to no, I mean, we have one room where we'll be doing some hand watering, but besides that, everything will be on an automated schedule and controlled. So I think we've taken pretty much every precaution that we could to ensure that the quality of the water is going to be sound. But proof will be in the pudding when we test it at the end, at the finish line.
I mean, and that's the only thing I have is we don't know yet what's going to come out of it until you start running. So,
Yeah. And we fully respect it. If there's something that we have to do, then something that we have to do. It's not a problem.
Just didn't want to end up like the brewery over in Charlton.
Yeah.
That was, I read that
Yeah, they
article
got,
the other
but
day.
are they dumping heavy metals into it? Phosphorus?
I don't know what it ended up being. The article I read didn't say what it was, but
Yeah.
I know it was a tough hit.
I think they were talking about putting a pre-treatment
Yeah.
in there.
Wow.
so, well, Charlton's wastewater system's terrible.
Well, that's when we first looked at the system, we did not have an RO system in the plan. And then when we tested the water, they came back and they said that the water in Douglas was good. The way it was being treated was fine, but what made us decide was that they said once you do take your nutrients and you add it to the mix, you may find that you'll have some higher. And of course, the other part of concern for us is not just the waste, but it's also going to go through the plant, right? So, we want to make sure that the medicine.
The plant's absorbing anything in the water. So.
Right. So we wanted to make sure the medicine didn't run the risk of that as well. So, we said we'll start with 0 with the RO system, and it should flush all the way out as best it can.
Yep. Do you have any idea on volume that you'll be using of the pesticides?
It's a very minimal amount. So all of these rooms are pressurized, contained.
That's what I was gonna say. It's not like you're growing outside.
Right. I mean, and
So-
it's 1% of new air that we're reintroducing to each room. So this is virtually a perfectly clean environment. But and we're using vinyl on the floors. So I mean, there's again very little air that's going out. We're reusing everything, but there's always a chance that something can be introduced from somebody walking in. We do have in our design, they are clean corridors and they are clean rooms and they are all pressurized. And we have a biosecure security entrance where everybody coming in will go through a locker room. They'll change into their white clean room attire and they'll go through a kind of tunnel where they'll be blown off and they'll go into the rooms.
Aeration thing.
But you never know, right? And
Yep.
Better spend a half a day when you go read the meter.
Yeah. I had a job down at Mason Research like that. We had to disinfect everything that went in there. When we went in, we had to take a shower before we went into the room and suit it up. And when we came out of the room, we had to take a shower. I was the cleanest person, like, unbelievable, 4 times a day. Going in and out for lunch.
Yeah,
It's
right.
unreal.
You don't want to leave the space once you're in it.
geez.
So he did bring up the meter. I forget all about it. You're supposed to have that meter calibrated annually. I know you guys haven't done it in years.
Really?
The only second downfall to that is that the person that used to have calibrated had passed away a couple weeks ago. Al Slade passed away.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
Any recommendations on?
I was about to say I'll see if I can track down some people that have the ability to calibrate that.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Oh, I didn't see that Al passed away.
Yeah, I don't think it was publicized anywhere.
Yeah.
But his wife called me and asked me if I wanted some of his equipment because he knew that I did a bunch of stuff like that. So
Will they coordinate that with you once we hire somebody to come in? Will they coordinate that it's being done, or will we need to do it and then notify you with?
usually they put a sticker on there with the calibration date and the next due date.
Yep.
So usually when I go in, I just look at that,
And
and I did notice that it hasn't been done. So
okay.
Hasn't been done in a while.
yeah,
And what about backflow preventers?
We
That's
just
all.
changed that.
yeah. But you mean for anything that they're going to use?
Yeah.
That's all.
Oh,
that's
that would have to
plumbing
be a
code,
separate.
so-
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll be a separate backflow
Well,
on top of the one that's in the mill now.
well, it all depends on how they're doing it. I'm not, you're gonna have to, I mean, they're gonna have to pull a plumbing permit for anything
Yeah.
you do over there, so, I mean, you look at that then, and I can come out and do a quick walkthrough for a survey, but, I
I'm
don't know.
sure they're gonna have to have that.
Yeah, but they could have an air gap. I have no idea how your process is working. I mean, if
Oh, I
it's,
see what you're saying.
if it's
yeah.
going, if they're just dropping it into a tank, you know, if you got a two
Right,
times
air
pipe
gap, yeah,
diameter,
then you won't need it.
you're
Right.
done. It's just a matter of how that's designed. I don't
Mhm.
know.
How it's ultimately draining to waste through?
No,
the-
it's
okay.
well, the water coming in. You know, if you're adding chemicals,
Yep.
if your pipe goes right into a tank that has chemicals, you have to have a backflow preventer on that so that chemical can't get back into the system.
Oh, okay.
I'm not
Outside of
sure
when
how-
it's
Yeah,
in
yeah,
there
yeah, yeah.
now.
Now I
I'm
understand.
assuming your fertigation stuff, you're going to be pouring water into a tank and then mixing. So if you keep
Correct.
your pipe filling your tank is 2 times the pipe diameter away, so there's an air gap.
Yep.
That classifies as backflow prevention, so you don't have to have any equipment on the line. But if you have it piped into, say you piped it into the bottom of the tank and you're filling the tank up, now that's going to require a RPZ, which is a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
So our
It's
current,
testable every 6
And we have
months,
to
right?
test it twice a year and
gotcha.
stuff
So,
like that.
so our current design and what we're working towards is the water's coming into the building. From there, it'll feed into a tank, and then into the RO system, and then the RO system goes to the fertigation room, where that water gets piped there, which gets mixed with mixing tanks there,
Yeah.
then gets out to the nutrients. So the water is, I mean, you have the tank coming in, you have the RO system coming in.
But is
and
it
then-
coming into like a pressurized tank, or is it coming into an atmospheric tank and you got a pump pumping it through your?
That I believe will be a pressurized tank.
So it's using city pressure to pressurize the tank, and then that same pressure to go through the RO.
Not sure. I'll get
So
back
that's
to you.
and
Yeah.
like
That
I
would
said,
need it
without
then.
seeing it, I
That's-
mean,
yeah. My guess is, yeah. I mean, we have it
Mhm.
like, I mean, the chemicals in the fertigation system is completely on the other, almost on the other side of the building from where
Yeah.
we're bringing the water in, treating the water in, and you know, so. But you'll see.
it's really
that-
just a matter of how it's piped,
Yeah.
where there's a separation, and where you're adding to it to determine whether or not it's going to need a backflow or not.
Okay. So
But that's all part of plumbing code anyway,
Yeah.
so
Right.
it'll get picked up through that process at some point. And if it doesn't, I'm gonna have, because you're changing everything, I'm required to have a guy come out and survey the piping to make sure there's no cross connection. So we'll catch it then anyway.
So we have, in the next 2 weeks, we're just refining some questions that they had regarding the fire system. And we're preparing those narratives that I was telling you about, which just kind of explain how all the rooms work. And then we're resubmitting the plans. So I'll just double check that on the prints before we resubmit to make sure that we have a plan in place for that.
Okay.
But I'm sure we will.
Anything else?
No, I think I'm okay.
Okay. They're not wasting any water, they're recycling all the water. Through
Yeah.
well, except for evaporation on the cooling tower.
So we got the
There's-
evaporation, we
There's a
got,
little blow off and a little
yeah,
reject from the RO,
yeah.
and obviously
But it's minimal.
domestic use, but
And we are draining to waste what comes out of the plants. So even though that is extremely small because of the way that we're watering the plants, I mean, it's not a, you know, again, it's a drip irrigation system, so it's very slow. And that's why our, you know, our sewer numbers are pretty low relative to the numbers that are coming in.
right.
And we are reusing all that condensate that's coming out of the room, as I mentioned. So, but yeah, you get the rejects from the RO system. Fertigation, and it's pretty low. We get that at about 500, about 10%. So we'll consume about 90% of that water and nutrients mix on cultivation.
All right.
What's your timetable for? Sorry, I withdraw the question. I withdraw the question.
It'd be next week if it was up to him.
I withdraw the question.
I'd rather be dressed in my work boots, to be honest with you, instead of this. But no, realistically, our timeline is we are responding to some questions that the town put out. Our internal deadline has been end of the month that we will have all of the responses and the prints prepared. Our understanding is once we do that, then they are going to require a 30-day period, again to review the revised requests, and then from there our subs are ready to go. I mean, so we're just waiting at this point for the green light so we can go.
Okay.
Yeah. Ideally, in a perfect world, I mean, December 1st would be fantastic if we could, but it may move into December with holiday. Yeah, we'll see. It's about a 4-month build out
Yeah.
once we start.
All right.
Okay, any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Thanks for
So
coming
I'll
in.
make a
Yeah,
motion.
Thanks for getting it done. I
Yeah,
appreciate
like I
it.
said, I just wanted to lay all our concerns out, make sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, no, that's good. And like I said, I'll take this too back to our compliance officer with the DPH. Let him know that we've had the town meeting, because again, she just wants to, the DPH is really good about making sure that all the towns understand what the other towns are going through. So I'll speak with her, let her know that these are the things that we talked about, and if she has any suggestions too, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, I know years ago I had called, I'd met with Mike down there, and I had called the state and asked them what concerns they had about discharge and all that, and of course it wasn't going on back then, so they put me in contact with some places out in Colorado, the state regulators out there, and they didn't seem to have much issues. That was years ago, but whether things change now, I've been trying to call someone here, and just hard to get a hold of people to.
Well, and maybe
and,
that's
and none
that's
of
a
them
good,
actually know anything. So
yeah, maybe that's a good. I haven't heard of anything.
Yeah.
The only thing that I heard of was kind of in the beginning when they were letting people use whatever they wanted to use to feed the plants. Not
Right.
not the state of Mass, but other states might have been a little bit more liberal on what the nutrients were. But with the state, it's pretty rigid. So
yeah,
which is good. But I heard
ultimately it's going
problems.
to save you money.
Yeah, right.
It may be a little cost up front, but I think overall it'll save you to reduce your waste and reduce the nutrients you have to use. So
Well, it'll be interesting to see after you have a good period of testing, after the regulation got adopted, if
Yeah.
things start changing in the water in town.
yeah,
Not just I mean with the
yeah,
residents that can have these operations in their house. Like you wonder,
yeah. I know we had talked about that a little.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay.
Okay, all set.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 11:44.
Second it, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.